There are allegations that the government imported inferior quality coal, which has apparently caused a loss of 8.4 billion rupees. Would you say that this is mismanagement, or would you say it's a scam?
This is corruption.
The NPP and the JVP, they were very vocal prior to the elections about corruption which occurred in the previous regimes.
Only allegation they could bring against the government was that the government was corrupt. So they said that all these development projects were corrupted. Now they are in power. Very easily they can do forensic audit and see whether the price we have paid as a country is in par with the work that has been done. Now they have come to power and there are very clear corruptions. It started from letting 323 containers out of the Sri Lankan port. Those containers were red label containers. That is a very high level of corruption. We have complained to the CID, we have complained to the Bribery Commission. No one has taken any single step regarding that. The particular CEO who was working at that time was arrested on the suspicion of taking commission from the Airbus company. His lawyers filed a motion in the Colombo Magistrates Court saying that he was taken in. The Director General himself has gone and threatened him and asked him to include name of certain politicians in his statement, and those names are stated in the statement, and forcibly his signature has been obtained to the statement.
Recently, MP Namal Rajapaksa made a shocking statement saying that in 2022, the SLPP government was overthrown due to a foreign hand, or rather foreign interference. Who was behind it? Welcome everyone, you're watching Conversations with Alanki, and joining me in today's conversation is the General Secretary of the SLPP and Attorney at Law, Mr. Sagara Kariwasam. Welcome. Thank you for being a part of this conversation, and getting straight to it. Let's speak about the current situation in the Middle East, which has obviously posed many challenges for many countries in the world, including Sri Lanka. My question is Sri Lanka prepared to face these challenges?
Well, firstly, I have to tell Alanki, this is a global issue. We have to be honest about that. All the countries in the world faces this issue right now. But unfortunately, Sri Lanka has not prepared, the government has not prepared itself to face these challenges. And one simple example I'll give you, the President Anukumar Dissanayake, last week he addressed the AGM of COIL. So this at COIL he promised twice in his speech. I watched his entire speech. In his speech he specifically says for another 2 months there won't be any issue with the energy sector, and that he promised the uninterrupted energy in the country for another a period of another 2 months. And after saying that, within 7 days he has introduced a QR system, and that is also now in a, like, they have not been able to manage that system properly, and it's in a utter chaos. We can see that the government has not taken any steps, seeing this war was coming, seeing this like fuel issue would, there was a very high possibility of the fuel issue to come up. The government has not taken any step towards it to manage it. So actually there's a huge issue of mismanagement rather than the real issue. Because
so when you, like you said, President Anukumar Dissanayake did state that there are sufficient stocks of fuel, but we are back to using the QR code again. What is the reason for this? Is it a shortage of fuel, or is it them just taking precautionary measures?
No, I think President Anukumar Disanayake, he has this habit of, uh, telling falsehood. He is lying to the public. So, but not as the president of the country, leader of the nation. I think he cannot do that because he made a promise at COIL 7 days ago that he is promising the nation uninterrupted fuel supply for a period of 2 months, and within 7 days the entire country goes without fuel.
Is it because there is really a shortage of fuel?
Looks like, because I cannot say this because these are the information we get from our, like, the certain employees in the Petroleum Corporation and various relevant places. According to the information that we receive, that we don't have a stock of fuel as the president says.
All right. And also, there are allegations that the government imported inferior quality coal, which has apparently cost a loss of 8.4 billion rupees from 9 shipments of inferior quality coal. However, some from the government say that there is no issue with this coal. What do you have to say about this?
First thing is, this coal tender was delayed for about 3 months without having any justifiable reason. And then the special cabinet paper was tendered saying that there's to buy coal on emergency basis. And as a result, normally for an international tender, you have to give a time period of 42 days, and it was reduced to 21 days. But the most important thing is, this particular company, which is now supplying coal, has registered itself, according to our information, within that period where the calling the tender was delayed. Okay, during that 3 months period, the new company has been registered as a supplier with the system. And now we are like, coal is coming to Sri Lanka, and these are all inferior quality. Like, as I can remember, it's the calorific value has to be something like 5,900 calories upwards or something like that. But these are very much inferior. And the thing is, the good quality coal that you purchase is, you have to buy it at a premium. And when it comes to the second quality, the price difference is it's a huge difference in the price. So now this particular supplier is supplying the inferior quality coal to the government. We are losing, firstly, by purchasing the cheap coal at a higher price. We are losing. Secondly, we are losing because the generators are not generating the required amount of power. And thirdly, to substantiate this power loss, we will have to use diesel generator.
Right. And obviously that's a challenge, because right now there's a fuel crisis.
We don't have diesel, like there's a fuel crisis. So if we have to go for diesel generation, definitely either the people will have to pay a very high price for their monthly electricity bill, or else people will have to continue without having power several hours a day.
So when recently the energy minister had made a statement that there might be power cuts in the near future. So is this a result of importing inferior quality coal?
This is 100% attributable to the inferior quality coal importation.
Right. And also, would you say that this is mismanagement or would you say it's a scam?
This is corruption. Without any doubt, we can say this is a corrupt deal. This is 100% corrupt deal, because changing of the supplier, allowing supplier to register, giving time, purposely delaying the tender, with all these things, what we see is there's a like daylight robbery. It's a daylight robbery.
And when we when you talk about corruption, it reminds me the NPP and the JVP, they were very vocal prior to the elections about corruption which occurred in the previous regimes. And they spoke about the bond scam, sugar scams, and many other scams. What do you think about the progress made so far in terms of eradicating corruption?
Well, Alanki, firstly, let me give me some time to explain this. Okay, now this country was rescued from the clutches of terrorism in 2009. After that, the country started going ahead with a like very rapid development program, and country was doing so well. The GDP went up to by fourfolds. Sri Lanka was only second to China in the development indexes, and the per capita income went up. With all these things, like only allegation they could bring against the government was that the government was corrupt. So they said that all these development projects were corrupt deals. But they said the highways, airport, the port, and even the Lotus Tower, all these things were, they said they were very corrupt deals, and the Rajapakshas were making money out of it. But now they are in power. They can very easily they can do forensic audit and see whether the price we have paid as a country is in par with the work that has been done. Okay, without doing that, they are still saying that Rajapakshas are corrupt. But this allegation of corruption, I'm not saying that there weren't any corruption at all. There would have been certain ministers who have done little bit of corrupt deals from here and there. I'm not saying that it was like 100% pure government, but the main allegations against these major projects, development projects, were all baseless and false allegations. Just for them to remain in gain power. But now you can see the same people who made allegations against corruption, now they have come to power, and there are very clear corrupt deals. Like earlier, that the corruption was in the air. They say all these deals are corrupt, but no one said exactly what the corrupt deal. They said all these the mega development projects, the people are taking commissions. That was the allegation. But now, if I say, it started from letting 323 containers out of the Sri Lankan port. The red label, those containers were red label containers. That is a very high level of corruption. Okay, normally, under no circumstances, a red label container would be allowed to go out of Sri Lanka customs without having a proper check.
And what is the progress in terms of those containers so far?
Nothing. We have complained to the CID, we have complained to the Bribery Commission. No one has taken any single step regarding that. No statements recorded, nothing has been done. only thing we saw is the very first person to complain about the container scam was killed. That is, Dan Priyasad was killed uh, on a at his residence, at his sister's residence. So this is the only thing that we saw. But so far, CID and Bribery Commission are inactive about that. Then let me come to there was about the importation of rice. There was a huge allegation. So complaints were made that the Bribery Commission and CID, no steps have been taken. And recently, about this coal deal,
Yes.
so many people have gone and complained to the CID and the Bribery Commission. Not even a statement being recorded from any of these complainants. And they are looking into the, it's so unfortunate because this, let me add this to this conversation, Alanki. Normally, the police department has to be a very independent department. And the police officers are, by law, they don't have political rights. Okay, police officers cannot have political rights. But today, Criminal Investigation Division, that is the unit which is empowered, which has to look into this kind of corrupt deals, is headed by a person who was a very strong activist of the JVP. And he was a retired police officer who was a JVP activist. He was taken into police department by a special cabinet paper, and he was made the head of the CID, Shania Besekara. And then what kind of justice you can expect from the police department when this kind of person is heading the most crucial unit of the police department? And secondly, you take the Bribery Commission, Bribery and Corruption Commission. Like when this Bribery Commission, the new act was brought to Parliament by President Ranil Wickremesinghe, there was a very serious talk within the members of the Parliament, the government members. I was a member of that Parliament. I know this, and certain people, they express their views saying that this kind of power, it's a huge, enormous powers have been given to the Bribery Commission. This kind of powers, when you give to a commission, if it comes to the hands of a wrong person, what kind of repercussions will have? That kind of debate was there inside. But we all decided, no, we need this. Because right now, the allegation is that, because there was a huge, public opinion that all the politicians are corrupt. So we thought, okay, the best thing is to create an institution which is very independent to look into this, where then people can go and complain, and then the public will know whether all the politicians are corrupt or these are mere allegations, or if there's any actually corrupt politicians, then they can be brought before the law.
Right.
Then we appointed the Director General, and after he was appointed, a former presidential candidate of JVP, Nandana Gunatilaka, made a very serious allegation saying that this person is not independent, he is a JVP activist, He has continuously worked for the party, and therefore you cannot expect independent director general's role from this particular person, the present DG. And then if the director general is honest, and if he denies this, what he could have done was he could have complained against Nandana Gunatilaka, brought him before the law, and like cleared his name. He did not take any action against Nandana Gunatilaka, but in a very mysterious way, Nandana Gunatilaka's death occurs. Still, there are, like, various conspiracy theories about his death. I don't know whether they are truth or not. Last week, Alanki, a very serious thing happened. That is, we have to say, a very serious thing. This, there was President Rajapaksa's government wanted to buy some Airbus, I think Airbus 350 aircrafts to Sri Lankan Airlines, which was subsequently terminated by the subsequent government. And when during last government, not by this government, during last regime, this particular the particular CEO who was working at that time was arrested on the suspicion of taking commission from the Airbus company. Okay, and that I think that there's a case going on against him under the normal law, and then all of a sudden bribery commission said that since this is coming under bribery and corruption as well, they have to question him. They brought him inside. He was brought in, he was taken in last Thursday, and then Friday his lawyers filed a motion in the Colombo Magistrates Court saying that he was taken in, the Director General himself has gone and threatened him and asked him to include name of certain politicians in his statement, and those names are stated in the statement, and forcibly his signature has been obtained to the statement. And 1 month back, or 1.5 months back, Bimal Ratnayaka, the leader of the House, states in the Parliament, by 8th of next month, the Namal Rajapaksa will see what is going to happen to him. Okay, now closer to 8th of March, the bribery commission, the Director General, is trying to threaten an accused to include a name of a politician in his statement. He personally threatens. This is the motion filed by that particular person's lawyer in the magistrate's court. I have a copy of that motion with me. He says that the Director General of the Bribery Commission has taken him personally to his room and personally threatened him and took his signature forcibly to a statement where certain politicians' names were written down. So, where are we going as a nation? This is a very serious issue. This is the justice system has to be something where all the citizens should have some faith. If you lose faith in the justice system, that country will fail. No investor will come there. No one will ever want to step into that country. No citizen, no sensible citizen, educated citizen who can do something for the country will want to live in that country. So this is a very serious issue. I don't know, because this government who came, who obtained power by promising the people that they will eradicate corruption, they are more corrupt than all the others, and they are even misusing the very institutions that are being established to fight against corruption. It's a very serious issue.
So you did talk about a very serious concern about how every country needs justice, especially to create that confidence among its citizens. I'd like to shift my attention to the economic crisis which happened during former President Gotabaya Rajapaksa's regime, where the Supreme Court provided that the former President Gotabaya Rajapaksa, Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa, and other top officials, including the governor of the central bank, were responsible for the crisis. As a prominent member of the SLPP, what are your views on this?
Your question was on the Supreme Court judgment, Alanki. Yes, certain people went to the Supreme Court. There were two cases. So these two fundamental right applications were taken up before a 5-judge bench. And 4 judges decided one way and 1 judge decided completely opposite way. Conception given to the public about the judgment, I would say quite wrong. Because in that judgment, it is never stated that Mahinda Rajapaksa, Basil Rajapaksa, Gotabaya Rajapaksa, or any other respondents have done certain things to bankrupt the economy of the country. It is not there. Okay, the people who are saying that have never read the judgment, but I have read the judgment very carefully. If you go through the judgment, what the judges say is, they are first saying, okay, we are quite aware of the fact these economic issues have come up as a result of a long-term process, where various governments have borrowed money from various countries, institutions, and mismanagement have been done in various previous times. They say we are mindful of all these things, and then they say they discuss about 3 things. Number 1 is reducing taxes of the people in 2019 by President Gotabaya Rajapaksa. Okay, and number 2 was not going to IMF at the correct time. Okay, and number 3, paying certain loans unnecessarily. And they say these decisions, decision to bring down the taxes of the people, and decision to
Pay back the loans.
And the decision not taking a decision to go to the IMF early has contributed towards this economic downfall. Has contributed. It's not that they have done it. The reason for that also has contributed. This is what the judgment says. But one judge says no. He very clearly says no. And there are President Gotabaya Rajapaksa, when he assumed power in 2019 November, in 2019 December, he brings down the taxes. Why did he bring down the taxes? Because this particular discussion came up in the Parliamentary Select Committee. That's why I'm saying with very confidence.
Right.
He brought down the taxes for the simple reason to give a boost to the Sri Lankan entrepreneurs. And we reduced taxes in 2019 December. Country was closed down in a very unexpected manner in 2020 March, 3 months after. And then the select committee asked the question from the relevant people. So then why did not you think of reintroducing the taxes? Then the obvious answer was no. when the business world, when the people are suffering from COVID, when their income has come down, when they're having so many hardships, how can a sensible government reintroduce taxes onto them? One can argue, okay, you reduce taxes in order to enhance the capital of the entrepreneurs and to develop the business of the country. But since the COVID, the country was closed down, you could have reintroduced the same taxes. But that cannot be done in a closed down country, because you ask the uh, company owners to pay the same salary to the employees. So then we could have, then all the other countries asked to pay only 50% of the salary. Okay, so with that kind of a background, how can we ask the the entrepreneurs, business people, to pay more taxes to the government as well? You can't do that. So that is that. There's a very simple logic. So even if you take going to the IMF at the correct time, so what is the correct time? Like, okay, if you ask 10 economists, they will say, give you 10 answers. There's no such correct, proper time or correct time to go to IMF.
So you're saying it's open to debate.
It's very much open to debate. People, so and third thing was that paying back the loans. Okay, so if we if we did not pay, then someone would say not paying the loans is wrong. But once you pay, they say, okay, paying the loans is wrong. So this is also very debatable point. But let me tell you very clearly, nowhere in this judgment the judges have stated that Rajapaksas are responsible for the economic downfall. It is not there in writing. Very clearly they have stated these things have contributed.
And also, before we move on to the final question, I'd like to ask you. Recently, MP Namal Rajapaksa made a shocking statement saying that in 2022, the SLPP government was overthrown due to a foreign hand, or rather foreign interference. What exactly did he mean by this? Who was behind it?
No, it was very clear, because when President Donald Trump took over the office, he said that the USA has spent a huge amount of money. I can't remember the exact amount, some millions of US dollars in Sri Lanka. And he said that there's no proper records to whom to the money has been given, who are the beneficiaries of this, for what purpose this money was given. And thereafter, you may remember, Alanki, this the just after President Donald Trump assumed office, US Ambassador to Sri Lanka, Julie Chang, Mrs. Julie Chang, visited our party office. Okay, and then we asked that specific question from her. Okay, please let us know where this now. President Trump says that this kind of huge amount of money has been spent in Sri Lanka. Please at least let us know to whom this money was given. Then she said, no, we are doing an internal audit and we will make it public that to whom the money has been given. But up to date, that thing has not been come out. I don't know whether they have some internal document or not. But Namal Rajapaksa's statement is purely based on the statement made by President Donald Trump. So it's very clear. President Donald Trump himself says that during last couple of years, the USAID has spent this much of money, and he immediately stopped the USAID operation in Sri Lanka. They brought them back to USA.
So when you say that there is no proof of how this money was utilized, some may want to know, how can you still attribute this? How can you actually say that this money was used to overthrow the government? That might be a question that might arise.
And there's a very logical answer to that, Alanki.
Mhm.
That is, in 2015, when President Mahinda Rajapaksa's government was overthrown, then Foreign Secretary of USA, John Kerry, I think it was John Kerry, I'm not very sure. I think Mr. John Kerry was the Foreign Secretary. He stated in the Senate or Congress that USA has spent uh, so many millions of dollars in Sri Lanka to change the regime of Sri Lanka. So they were quite involved in this process. They have been doing this. And then the next president comes and says, this much of money has been spent in Sri Lanka, and we don't know for what purpose it was spent. And then he immediately recalled the USA. They have to answer actually. They have to answer. If it was not for the overthrowing the government, they have to answer Sri Lanka and tell Sri Lanka where this money went, because it may be like the present ruling party would have got. We never know, because no one knows where this money went. Since I am the General Secretary of SLPP, I can assure you we did not get a red cent of this money. But other than us, I don't know how many other parties and other like so-called the social activists and the artists and various people who were very heavily involved in this overthrowing of the regime got involved in that.
So what you're saying is you don't know how the money was utilized. There's a question about it.
There's a serious question not only for us, but even for President Donald Trump has that question.
Right. So due to time constraints, I'll move on to my final question. So public opinion, I mean, there is a certain view in the public that the SLPP is a family-run party. Do you have to say about this? Are there going to be any changes in the structure or policies of the SLPP moving forward?
Well, I have to give somewhat a long answer, Alanki,
Sure.
because people should get the correct picture.
Mhm.
Firstly, SLPP is the continuation of SLFP. SLFP was earlier also that this same allegation was against SLFP, saying it was a family-run party, only Bandaranayakas can, dominate that party. Yes. But all of a sudden, Mahinda Rajapaksa became the leader of the party, and party was taken into new heights. Okay, and Sri Lanka also, like the development of Sri Lanka was taken into the next level. And then 2019 presidential election, bringing Gotabaya Rajapaksa as the presidential candidate, the party had to take that decision not because he was the brother of the leader of the party, but due to the reason that there was a public opinion that he should be the next leader of the country. There was a, the public opinion that he was the most suited, because since people saw what he did as the defense secretary, people saw what he did as the secretary of the urban development authority. With all those things, people thought that he should be the next leader of Sri Lanka. So we as a party had to respect that public opinion. Okay, and I still believe if we did not have the pandemic after he assumed duties as a president, he would have been one of the best presidents of Sri Lanka. But unfortunately, the pandemic came and due to lack of political experience and various other reasons, he could not manage it properly. You know, he managed the pandemic properly, but not the economy. Coming back to your question, is SLPP a Rajapaksa family party? I would say no. I would very clearly say no. The party has a structure. Parties has a, Politburo. Party has a executive committee. The decisions of the party is taken by the Politburo and the executive committee, and party has its own ways of going forward. And for 2024 election, the party Politburo decided to field Mr. Dhammika Pereira as the candidate, who has no relevance to Rajapaksas at all. Okay, but unfortunately, the last moment he said no. At the very last moment, after Mr. Dhammika Pereira decided that he is not going to contest for the presidency from our party, we were left with very little choices. So that at that time, the entire Politburo unanimously decided, okay, under this Namal Rajapaksa should come forward as the presidential candidate. But as the presidential candidate, he showed lot of leadership qualities in him, and so automatically he has taken the reins of the party now with the blessings of President Mahinda Rajapaksa, because it happened due to the sudden decision of Dhammika Pereira not to contest. Otherwise, it would have been a different scenario.
Right. So I'm just going to put you on the spot. During the next elections, do you think MP Namal Rajapaksa would be the presidential candidate?
Well, next presidential candidate of the party has to be decided by the Politburo of the party. But as a member of the party, not as the general secretary of the party, but as a member of the party and as a person who loves this country, as a citizen of Sri Lanka, I think he's the best, one of the best choices that we have right now. But it has to be decided by the Politburo of the party.
All right. Thank you very much for this conversation and for shedding light on these topics.
Thank you very much for inviting me, Alanki.
Thank you for being a part of this conversation. Thank you everyone for watching. I hope you enjoyed this content. If you like my content, like, comment, subscribe, and share with your friends and colleagues. Take care and stay safe. I'll be back with another episode.